Organic compounds are just compounds that contain carbon and usually a hydrogen or oxygen, but organic compounds are defined by they are the chemistry of carbon. There are a few exceptions though, like for example, carbon dioxide is not considered an organic compound. For naming organic compounds, you have to know your basic prefixes. And so these are listed here where one is meth. So if you have one carbon, you're methane. Two carbons, these are the simple alkanes. So two carbons is ethane and three carbons is propane. And the ANE stands for a single bonded hydrocarbon. Pretty much these are single bonded straight chain hydrocarbons. The rules for naming these hydrocarbons, let me just kind of go through and work one as I go through the rules. And so if we take a look, the first rule is for a branched hydrocarbon, the longest continuous chain is what you give the root name. So the first thing we need to identify is what is our longest chain. And so if we take a look here, we actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Or we try and count it so that we can, the most particular ways. But even though this carbon is down here as a CH3, it's actually part of the straight chain. It's kind of like if you can you can draw your pen without picking it up, those are all connected to each other. So if we take a look at that, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So then we go back up to our list and we look up 6, and 6 is hexane. And so we know that our root name, these are all single bonds, so our root name is going to be hexane. So I'm going to write hexane out here. So then I need to look and see, is there anything hanging off? And if we look, we do have a CH3 hanging off from our main root chain. So that's, since it's just a C, one C, this is called a branch chain, then that's a methyl group. Because now it says when alkane groups appear as substitutes, they are named by dropping the ane and adding a YL. So we take a look, one carbon, so one carbon is meth, one carbon is meth, so then we just change it from methane to methyl. So I know that there are two methyl groups. So this is a methyl group, and this is a methyl group. So I need to add those to the name. So it's a YL and a YL. So how many methyl groups do I have? So it says the position. So the first thing I need to figure out is what is the position. Well, I start counting so that I hit these methyl groups in the shortest direction. So I'm going to count my carbons as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I know that on the second carbon, so position, second carbon, there are two methyl groups. Well, since there's two methyl groups, if I look at number 4, it says to use a prefix here to indicate the multiple identical substitutes, and so, or substituents. And so I know I have two methyls, so I'm going to call that dimethyl. So I know that I'm going to have 2. On the second carbon there's a methyl, and on the second carbon there's a methyl. So even though it's both on the second carbon, I do have to be redundant and say 2,2. So I'm going to say 2,2 dimethyl, because I could have had a methyl group, let's say on the second and third, then I would have had to say 2,3. So you can't just say 2-dimethyl. I have to say 2,2-dimethyl hexane. So that's the name of this guy. So we'll do another practice in just a second, but what happens if I have a double bond? Well, if I have a double bond, it's going to be an ENE. So in this case, I know I still have 4 carbons, and so 4 is bute, so I know I have bute. But on the first carbon, there is a double bond. So that's what the 1 stands for. The 1 is the locator for the double bond. So in this case, the double bond is on the second carbon. So 1, 2, 3, 4. See, in this case, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's where it starts. And so the double bond starts on the first carbon. Here, the double bond starts on the second carbon. So that's why it's 2-butene. So let's look at a few examples then and follow our rules again. So rule number 1, find your longest chain. It's all, I know these are all single bonds, so let's look at our longest chain. So I have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now let's try that one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that actually is my longest chain this way. So I know I have 8. Well, 8 is oct. So I know my base is oct. No double bonds or triple bonds. And so it's going to be octane. So then I take a look and I see that I have some groups. I have C2H5. Well, 2 is F. So this is an ethyl group. And this is meth. So this is a methyl group.